Hey, friends. This is Martine Williams, and I am obsessed with all things mompreneur life and helping you to remix your priorities, your habits, your mindsets, and yes, even your relationships so that you can build a successful business without losing yourself in the process. I'm also obsessed with the color turquoise and lyrics of the 80s and 90s, but that's beside the point. Girlfriend, you don't have to hustle 24/7, 365 and continue to sacrifice your health, your relationships, and your sanity to be a successful mompreneur. As a small town girl living in a lonely world to a six-figure mompreneur, I am here to teach you how. There is a better way, and this podcast is your one-stop shop for all of the how-tos, the encouragement, the life hacks, the success tips, and of course, a little side of tough love. This is the Mompreneur Life Remixed podcast. So let's do this. Hey, friends. Today's episode, you're in for a real treat. And I know I say that probably at the beginning of every Turquoise Talk episode, but I am very particular on who I bring on to the show. And I'm just super inspired by our guest today. She actually was the first coach that I invested in outside of a direct sales coach. And, as I was building my brand, some of you have been me from the very beginning when I was building Choose You and the group coaching program and, still running a very successful business with 31 Gifts. Stacy Tuschl was the mentor for me at that time. And I was so inspired and attracted to her because of what she valued and still does today. The fact that she had a brick and mortar business and she was, she had multiple businesses. And at that time, that's what I was trying to do. And I knew I needed someone who is in the trenches doing it to help me kind of grow the business, get some systems in place, think outside the box, push me a little bit. So when I launched the podcast, I was really excited to invite her on to the show. And so today's guest is Stacy Tuschl. So let me tell you a little bit about her. She started her own business at the age of 18 in her parents' backyard and turned that company into a multi-million-dollar business that she still runs today. She is a best-selling author and founder of Well-Oiled Operations, helping small business owners around the world create systems that facilitate growth by promoting team accountability and eliminating the common challenge of the CEO's time and energy limitations, becoming that bottleneck in scaling the business. The top-rated Well-Oiled Operations podcast, which is her podcast, now has almost 2 million downloads, where she's interviewed guests like Susie Orman. Amazing. Stacy was named the 2019 Wisconsin Small Business Person of the Year by the United States Small Business Administration. She is amazing. You will love her. I'm so excited for you to hear from her. When we were recording, my internet, of course, was acting up and the kids were home. So hopefully it'll be really crystal clear for you. But if not, hang in there. There may be some bumpy spots, but it is worth the listen. So let's get right to it. Welcome back, friends, to the Mompreneur Life Remixed podcast. I am so excited about today's Turquoise Talk guest. I actually met Stacy virtually. It's one of those, virtual mentors that you come across, and it's just such a small world. But she was actually my coach for 2 years in a group coaching program, then in her mastermind, and I've just really enjoyed watching her journey and her brand and how she's pivoted and changed and transitioned, and just an amazing person. And so when I launched the podcast, I knew for sure I wanted to have her on as a guest. And so I asked her, and she said she would love to be on the show. So thank you so much, Stacy, for taking the time to be on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. I am a huge Martine fan, so I am so excited to be here and supporting you on the podcast.
Well, thank you so much. So for those who don't know you, tell us a little bit about you, your family, and kind of why you started, why you became a mompreneur.
Yeah, for sure. So I actually became an entrepreneur before I was a mom. So I actually started teaching dance classes in my parents' backyard right out of high school. And just thought that was going to be like a fun, right? Like college kid, this will be fun in the summers and all the things. And it started to naturally grow. I wasn't trying to do marketing or anything like that, but other kids were telling their friends, moms were telling other moms. And all of a sudden we had 100 kids coming and then 300 kids coming, and it just kept growing and growing. And I realized, okay, maybe this is a business. And today, now that's 20 years already old, which is crazy.
Wow.
We have 2 performing arts academies in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, doing over $1 million a year, just growing constantly, even through the pandemic. Like we figured out how to be shut down, how to go virtual. Our numbers are bigger and better than they've ever been before, which is just like probably one of the biggest accomplishments I've ever done, is like go through a shutdown. And then because I wanted to become a mom at some point, I realized, oh shoot, I have a second like shift industry. You think I am only open when kids are home from school or on the weekends.
Right.
So it was fine when I was single, but pretty soon I'm like, wait a minute, when am I going to be a mom if I have to be here when my kids are home? And I realized I better figure out how to do this with a team. How can I start delegating? And I did this before I ever became a mom, knowing at some point that is the goal. So let's start to figure this out now. And that's honestly where Well Oiled Operations sparked, was because people were going, wait, how are you building this business? And now it's open, but you're home with the kids and all of the things. Like, tell me more. And then about 7 years ago, this other business sparked, which Foot Traffic is like the business name itself. But really teaching business owners how to run a well-oiled operation, which means giving yourself time to be on vacation with the family, being home for dinner, not being pulled in on a Saturday when you just want to be at the soccer game, right? Like really getting to enjoy like both sides of that. So it's kind of my journey in a nutshell. But yeah, so I think I was an entrepreneur. So it's been 20 years. The first 10 solo, no kids. The last 10 doing it all with a 7 and 9-year-old. So it's funny how things drastically change.
Well, and it's been so cute to see her being involved, both of them being involved, in the business, and seeing her do some of your reels and fun videos like that. So it's definitely a family business. And Kent, he's helping you right now. I mean, tell me what is he doing to support you now? Yeah.
So Kent, it's already been 3 years, which is crazy. Holy cow. It's like a thing. We actually work together. He does my podcast editing. He does things like uploading to YouTube, kind of like the techie, maybe some stuff in a ClickFunnels, that kind of stuff. Yeah. So definitely more of just like an employee role. He's not somebody who wants to be the visionary or the partner. He's just like, tell me what to do and I'll do it. And it really has worked out well. And it's just the freedom we have of not having to ask his boss if we can take a vacation or can he have off tomorrow? I was building this amazing business, but we didn't have the freedom because like, I don't want to go on vacation alone. Like what fun is that? Right. Yeah. So it really took my business going to a whole nother level to say, we can afford you to not have to work there if you want to.
Yeah. Yeah. So, it's so easy with social media. And I know the mompreneurs that are listening to they see where you are now, or maybe there's someone else that they're following on social and they see, okay, now her husband is helping her and she's got this family business and all this flexibility, but there's always a mess before the success. Yeah. And there's always things, lessons maybe that you learned. So what would you say in all these years building your businesses, what has been like your biggest lesson or kind of that mess, before the success?
Yeah. Oh man, so many. I mean, every day, like it doesn't stop. And I say this without trying to scare people, but I think we think as soon as I get to this number, as soon as we hit this in revenue, once I have one more person on my team, things will be so much easier. Right. And what happens is, because most of the people listening, we're driven, we're hungry, we want to achieve. As soon as you hit the one milestone, you're onto something bigger and better, which means you don't know what you don't know. Right. And I actually just hired a new mentor, and it was definitely not a cheap investment. Right. My husband's like, Stacy, I don't get it. You don't need this guy. Like, you'll be fine. Like, you can do this. And I'm like, Kent, I get that I look confident to you right now. And I am with this business the way it is. But I'm about to create something I've never created before. And I have no idea what it's going to take. Right. And I would rather spend the money to hear somebody that I trust to say, like, Stacy, here's what you should do. Don't do this. I've already done it. So for me, I've been so good at lessons learned of like other mentors. Like I have actually, not made certain mistakes because they've said, don't do that. That'll be the worst thing you could ever do. Right. Now you still make mistakes because like nobody is too good to like get to weave in and out of all of that stuff. But I definitely saved myself a lot by listening to other people further along. I think I'm trying to think of like biggest lesson learned. I mean, it's 20 years. Like I could write a
You
book
write a
on
book
this.
on that, right?
I know. I could write a couple books. I think really maybe understanding like every level really does take a different person, a different strategy, different people on the team.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it's just like not getting too comfortable when things feel really good.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because there's always going to be a new challenge in that space. And sometimes like overconfidence can really hurt you because you start making really foolish decisions like, oh, no big deal. And then it's like that decision just cost you $100,000. And that's going to take a little bit to come back from. Right.
Right. Yeah. And one of the things I admire about you is that you are always investing, right? Like you just said, you have a mentor, and this is the time of year that people are thinking about, what kind of coaching program maybe, or do I want to hire a coach, or do I want to hire a mentor or a mastermind? And can you speak to that a little bit for the person who's like, I know I need someone to help me get to that next level in my business, but I can't afford it, or, know, that, you hear it all the time, I'm sure,
And it's funny because I always think I can't afford the specific coach that I want. And then you just figure it out and then you get the return and you do it again. So I stumbled on a coach 3 years into my business. So year 3, I find this guy who's further along. And I remember he was like, he like does the pitch and then he says it's $187 a month. And I remember thinking, where am I going to find $187 a month? And I laugh now because if you even knew what I was spending on coaches, right? It's just insane. But it's never changed. Every time I go to hire somebody, invest in somebody, or a mastermind, I'm up leveling the room or the mentor, which means it's a bigger price tag.
Right.
So that feeling, that scariness of like, I don't think I can afford this. Right. I always go, well, I'm going to figure it out. Like, how am I going to afford it? And where am I wasting money right now that I can just cut out? Cause that, oh my goodness, how many of us are currently wasting money? Like for sure.
Yeah.
Like there's hidden money hiding in your business. Right. And I also think a lot of times we're just not working on the right stuff. And if you can find somebody who can say to you, don't do this instead, right? It's so much easier. So one thing that I have always said is I have always gotten a return on my investment. And it's not because I just picked really good mentors. It's because my attitude is it's my responsibility to make the money back. Like it's my responsibility to find the hidden gem, to ask the mentor or to be honest and say, listen, I'm not getting anything out of this right now. Like, can we just talk about this? Am I in the right room? I've had people go, oh, I didn't know you felt that way. Let me challenge you. Let me give you more guidance. Let's jump on a private call. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, right. You just got to stand up for yourself. You need to say something because sometimes people just don't know. So I think before you go and invest, don't think this is the shiny unicorn. They're going to blow you up. No, they're here to guide you, but you have to do the work. You have to take ownership. You have to take the accountability. But I would never do business without a mentor ever. Like, I don't care how much I'm making, what level I'm in, because there's always somebody bigger than me out there.
Right. And when you're looking for one, are you looking for some, like in a specific area that you're trying to grow in the business? Do you get that detail when you're searching for someone? Cause I know someone's asking, okay, well, there's so many out there. How do I know this is the right one for me?
Yeah. Good question. So, I think 2 things that I will say. One, and I've made this mistake, is hire somebody that has the values and lifestyle you have or want. Okay. This is big because yes, somebody could, but sometimes the way they try to get you there is just not in alignment with what you want to do. Or maybe they're okay with sacrificing, 70 hours a week and you're not going to see your kids. And to me, I'm like, no. I'm closing my computer at this time. And if you have a problem with that, this isn't going to work. Right. Like if you expect me to show up every Saturday, that's not going to happen. No, like once in a while, I might want to be with family. Right. So I think a big thing is like, this person's going to teach you things. Do you want to turn into them? Like I've had mentors sometimes where I'm like, this looks scary. I do not want to be at this level of intensity, or I'm not seeing them treat their employees nice, or the way that they're treating me. Like, I don't want to think this is appropriate or acceptable. Right. So I really want you to watch like from the outside, not what they're saying they're going to help you do, but like, who are they? Right. Who do you see? All the things. And I think you can see a lot on social media of like,
for sure.
Are they spending time with their family? Like, what does this look like? And then goal this year? Like, what is the biggest thing I need help and support with? Right. And is this person the best person for that specific role? Right.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's just so many different people. And maybe you don't even know what your big thing is to work on. Maybe you're like, I literally genuinely don't know where to go. You should know them so well that there shouldn't even be questions if they could help you, right? Because if you're loving their podcast, you're reading their books or whatever they have out there, their free content, you should already be resonating, getting value, implementing. Like, it shouldn't be like, I wonder if Martine's going to do it. It's like, no, you're already here. You already love it, right? Like,
right.
That's where I would say is I usually am not just going from 0 to 100. There's a really easy way to binge 10 podcast episodes in a weekend and go, oh my gosh, I need everything this person has to offer. Like, I want to go all in.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so good. That's so good.
Yeah.
Okay. So you mentioned just a few minutes ago, you were talking about wasting money and, being able to have that money to invest in coaching or mentorship. And I know that I think I was listening to a recent IG Live or something, you were talking about the numbers, like what numbers you were so shocked at the numbers that people don't know in their businesses. So what would you say, is like, what are the key numbers that a mompreneur should know in her business, like off the top of her head?
Yeah. So you should know, how much are you bringing in every month? What are you spending every month? What is your profit margin? So when I will say to somebody before they come to work with us, I'll ask them those numbers. And sometimes they'll say, oh, I got to talk to my CPA. And I'm like, well, no, just like ballpark. Like, what did you bring in last month? And like, what do you think you're spending? And they're like, I don't know. I'm like, okay, this is where I know, like, it's like the scorecard, right? So every month I get to say, things were great. Let's do more of what worked last month.
Right.
Or I go, guys, overspent. We cannot repeat last month. We need to cut expenses and we need to make more, right? So my numbers direct me, right? The data directs me for what I'm going to do next week. So like, if I know my target of like what I want to accomplish in a week or every month, let's say I want to make 5 sales every week. If I'm tracking, and trust me, I'm tracking, but if I'm tracking and I only did 3 one week, I'm going, okay, light a fire, because next week we got to make up for the 2 we missed.
Right. Okay.
But if you're not even watching those numbers, right? It's really, really hard. And here's what I'll tell you. You're either not watching and you're negatively being impacted because you don't know to make the right decisions moving forward, or you're leaving money on the table. Because let's say your goal is 5 a week, 7 a week, 6 a week, 8 a week. I actually could help you say, listen, let's stretch you to 9 a week because you're already almost doing it. Right. And now you're like, oh, and you have a different level of confidence and you have a different level of actions, and just like your behaviors change. So tracking what's going on. So I really think it's money in, money out. And all you do is you say, how much was left over divided by how much did we spend? And that's your profit margin. Like that's the number, move the decimal 2 times, and that will give you a percentage. But those 3 numbers, for sure, everybody in their business should be tracking. I mean, I can tell you today what we brought in year to date as of the date we're recording this. Like, I don't even wait till the month is up to find that number.
That's what I was going to ask you.
Every day.
Yeah. Because you can't impact that number at the end of the month about the month you're in, unless you kind of know what's going on.
Like over.
So, nothing you can do about that. You can do better in the next month, but if you're not, really tracking it each week or each day like you're doing. So that's good. That's good.
It's so nice knowing we've already hit our break even for the month and the month isn't over yet. Like there's time to go bigger and profit, right? And now where can we go? And it just feels so secure when you know there's more opportunity out there. Right.
So speaking of systems, because that's a system, right, is tracking your numbers. That's one of the main systems you should have. What's like the number one thing you do to help kick off your new year in the business? Like, is there a checklist you go through? Is there a certain system you kind of walk through to just make sure you're kicking off the new year the way you want?
This today, as we speak, I am looking at what is my bestseller? What am I leaning into? Where is like the most profitable product, program, or service coming from? And what are my numbers? Like, what do I need to hit? And one of the things that I was doing is I literally today, as I was sitting here, I used the data to track, because I started doing something in September of this year that blew up one of our products. So I don't have data from summer to see what summer will look like with it. So what I did was I just decided, okay, well, if I want this number sold of this specific product, let's just pretend like we make no money in summer, which is not going to happen. But just for like being, on the conservative side, let's divide it by 9 months. And I said, I'm all set. And it was a really realistic number. And what felt amazing is it doesn't matter if summer isn't good. Business where summer dies down a little bit. We still make sales, but it is nothing compared to a September or a December, right? So my actions are changing the way I head into January. I actually stepped up my goal a few numbers because I wanted to give myself grace over summer and feel great about being on track. Because I think a lot of times people do unrealistic goals that you forget. June's an awful month for you, or you're taking off in July.
Right.
And then you're not properly, and then all of a sudden in August, you feel horrible because you're not on track. You're not going to make up.
Yeah.
And then it impacts Q4.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's kind of step one is looking at annually, right? And now it's, what am I doing in Q1? So I actually did my annual planning with Q1 planning today, because that is where I say, okay, what do I need to be doing January, February, March to really have the numbers I want to hit? And what does that look like? Right. Yeah. So all of a sudden I went from like really not knowing any details about next year to feeling so confident of I need this many sales in the month of January. And what are the actions I'm going to take to try to get there?
Yeah. And is this something that you do like solo, or are you working with your team? Do you have people on your team that you're kind of having this group conversation, or is this just like you get alone and you kind of go through this on your own?
I would say both. So I definitely did some prep work before on my own. And then I did a team retreat where the team actually came and I shared, here's what I think our bestseller is. Here's what I think our critical number is going to be. But they can challenge me. They can go like, oh, that's too small, or that's way too big, or we start brainstorming together. So I left that retreat with the revenue goal we want to hit next year, the critical number goal that we're also trying to hit. Today was, what are the actions to get me there? Yeah. What am I going to do to hit those revenue goals, those things? So today was, and it's everybody that has a department, like any leader is going to do. So I lead marketing and sales. So all my initiatives were marketing and sales focused. Somebody else has fulfillment, operations, all of that as well.
Okay. Awesome. Those are really good tips. And I know, like I said, people they want to set themselves up for success, the beginning of the year, and not knowing what those systems are. I just think it's really fun to listen and hear from others, especially someone, Wild Or Operations that's what makes you, and that's what you help people with. So thank you for sharing that. I'm sure you've seen, like in 2022, you've seen shifts in the business or shifts in marketing. And is there any major shift that you saw that you're going to be changing, or, kind of, I'm so tired of the word pivot, but, is there anything you really saw that like, okay, in 2023, we're going to have to do things different because this was a major shift in the business, in our industry?
We definitely were doing a lot of manual things. So maybe manually messaging in DMs, manually, like stuff like that, right?
Right.
Whereas the bigger we grow and the more visibility we get, we have to really start to say, like, how do we automate certain pieces? So I am a big believer, and one of the reasons we're so successful is because we still have this human interaction with our potential clients, our current clients, et cetera. But I think combining them. So like we are about to do some really cool automation in our DMs, but all it does is help have people self-qualify themselves, and like a real person jumps in at a certain point. So it's really actually better customer service, because we might have been going back and forth with you for 4 days because I asked you a question and you didn't jump back on for 3 more hours and vice versa, right? This is now you can go touch something and within like 3 minutes, you've done it. Hey, listen, I think you should book a call, or I think this is the program for you, or whatever that is. So I think this year is going to be a whole bunch of mixing automation with the personal touch to not lose that connection with our people. Yeah.
Yeah. And is there a certain service because I know someone's thinking, okay, well, what is she using then to automate? What's your favorite system for that?
Yeah. So with automation, we're strictly using ManyChat, which is super, it's very inexpensive. Yeah. And it is a little tacky. So you either want to hire somebody who just knows how to do campaigns, or you can figure out how to do yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. So another question that I like to ask every guest that comes on is about burnout. And because I know that it's, you know me, it's something I've been talking about for a long, long time. And it is kind of an epidemic. And it's almost like this is just the belief is you have to have that level of hustle to be successful. So I'm sure you've experienced burnout before. And if you were willing to kind of share, like, how did that show up for you? Was it you just felt overwhelmed? You got anxious? You got, maybe you had some depression. And then how did you kind of work your way out of it? What was that season like for you?
Yeah. So if I could show you like a chart of the last 20 years, it's like, go, 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 hustle, 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 hate the business, do nothing for a very long time, get bored, redo it again. Right.
Yeah.
And literally that is what it was like. And I think we think when we hustle and we're doing all the things like, oh, this is going to be so worth it. And it takes you a year to recover business again or get the energy to come back. Right. How much are you losing by losing the CEO and the level of passion and intensity you need?
Right.
So what I started to realize is, I mean, I take a lot of vacations and people probably think, why does she need so many vacations? But the bigger I get with my business, the more I need to take a break. So right now we're vacationing about once a month.
Yeah.
And I even said to my team, like, you might be thinking, why are you taking this many? Because I am the visionary. I literally need that week. And like, while I'm gone for a week, I'm just thinking all week, thinking. And I will come up with the best ideas for the company. I will literally come up with $1 million ideas. When I come back from vacation, I'm like, all right, here's what we need to do. Here's what I'm thinking. And it becomes the next big idea. Right.
Right.
And I think, and maybe the moral of the story is not monthly vacations. It's time away. It might be half days on Friday to just think, right? It might be a daily walk. And just no podcast in your ear. It is strictly for you just to like have a conversation with yourself, right? So I feel like the last time I was really tired was the pandemic, like when it first kicked off and just figuring it out. But other than that, I think this is the longest I've gone without getting burned out. And I think it's because of the way that I'm rewarding myself in the journey versus waiting to the end.
Yeah.
Right. So many times I would say, well, I'll just pay myself only this much. And eventually I'm not even making any money or they're making more money. Like my team is making more money than me. Like I'm working the hardest and I'm making less. Right.
Right.
You start to feel really resentful. Right. I mean, even tomorrow, great example, team is off tomorrow. Everybody's paid off. I'm working. I have of like, and I really did Black Friday, right? Didn't even think about it. Like I was just like, what's got to get done. But the more you can say like, no, the team isn't even working. Why are you working? Right? Like take the break, time off, all the things. And I let myself do that knowing I'm about to head on vacation in like 3 days. I was like, no, I'll be okay. I'll squeeze it in.
Right.
But I need the breaks. I need the recharge. I need the reward. Even if the reward is just like a massage, right? Anything to just like give yourself like that little break.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's important for people to know what their capacity is. Like there are some people that just have a larger capacity to do more. And, not knowing that about yourself and you're watching someone like, you and I who are able to do a lot of different things at the same time. Not everybody has that strength, right, of their personality and don't have that capacity. So I think really just spending some time figuring out like what are my limits? We do have limits.
Yeah.
And we just think we can just keep going. Like you said, kind of chasing after that ball that never slows down. You have to slow it down and you have to slow yourself down. Yeah.
Well, and I really have realized I'm just fast. I'm very quick. So if you and me put down everything we were going to do this week or somebody listening, you might look at that list and go, there's no way she's doing that in 5 days.
Right.
Or she must be working 100 hours. And I'm like, no, like if you saw what I get done, you would think I'm crazy. But like my brain, I'm a quick decisionist in the fact that like, oh, I'm going to rewrite that. Or let me, like, I don't really like that podcast. Let me re-record it. I never re-record a podcast. I never rewrite. Like I commit, I go all in and I love my decision and I move on.
Right.
And it's a skill set. Like that is something I had to learn. So I think that's another thing too, is like, I am 20 years in. Like I always tell people that if you're comparing yourself to me, I have been doing this for 20 years. Like it's a big deal. And I have a massive team between both businesses. I have like 50 employees and dozens of contractors.
Yeah.
My output looks very different than a lot of other people's.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me what you're most excited about in your business right now.
Hmm. I feel like 2022 was a figure it out year. Like I definitely came into it with just new clarity, new focus, but I wasn't sure. Like I still had to figure out how to sell my number one product, just like all the different things. And I feel like I took the time this really started to take off in September. And now I feel like I have everything I need to go as big as I want to go. Right.
Yeah.
But there's still going to be work involved. There's work in maintaining it, growing it. That it got bigger. Now, how do I fix it? Right. So it's not like I'm excited that there's not a lot of like creating new next year.
Yeah.
I'm really just refining next year, which is amazing. And it's just from the refining. Right. But this is where I want people to hear you've got to figure out what the winning pieces are before you can refine.
Yeah.
Right. You've got to do the work. And I did the work in 2022.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really a good point. Like, what are those winning pieces so that you can just refine it? You know, I do feel like sometimes, do you feel like people sometimes quit before they've realized it's a winning thing? Like they don't give it enough time to work, whether it's coaching or a physical product or a digital product, like we just don't give it enough time to work? Because you're a fast mover. So I'd really like to hear what you have to say about that.
I think when the work gets tough or we kind of start to procrastinate, grass is greener. And we're like, you know what? Martine's strategy, that looks like it would work for me. Let me just scrap what I've been doing for the last 3 months. And let me try to pivot and do what Martine's doing because Martine's crushing it. But you don't see that Martine struggled for the first 90 days. And then finally on month 4, she did it. And you quit on day 80 and you never have the success, like the breakthrough moment. Right. So every time I say to my clients, like, go back to what worked. Go back to what worked. You don't need something new. Find the thing that worked and just get better at that thing.
Yeah.
But our brain is like, no, that's not fun. Let's do something new. But you know what's not fun? Struggling.
Yeah.
And every time you do something new, there's a stage of figuring it out.
Yeah, for sure. And this is another question I like to ask is about self-sabotage, because that is also something. Either we don't let it, we don't give it enough time to work. And like you said, we kind of hop around to one strategy to the next strategy. Oh, that looks like that's going to work. So I'm going to try that. But then I think for women specifically, that self-sabotage comes in and it's like, well, you can't offer that at that price point. You know, like how have you overcome that yourself? And is there like a favorite book you read maybe to help with self-sabotage or money mindset, or just, I know someone's listening and they're like, I have this thing that I want to offer, but is that the right price point? And is it too much?
Good question. I think so my strategy, even with pricing, is I'm learning from somebody that's ahead, whether I'm just like free funnel hacking and watching, right? Or I've purchased something and they say, price it at this. Okay. Either way, I'm looking at a proven model of somebody else. Okay. And I'm doing an analysis of like, well, they offer this at this much. Can I offer this at this much? Like, can I justify it if that's the price point? Right.
Right.
So, and there's pros and cons. Just because somebody's further along than you doesn't mean you don't have other strengths to be able to justify the same price or a bigger price. Right.
Right.
So it's being confident in picking at least a first draft number. Then it's, can I sell it at that? I gain my confidence by really like putting it out there and then watching the results. So I had this idea last year to create a $2,000 offer, and I pre-sold it and then I built it, and we sold a ton. And then when I built it, I was like, this is insane. This is like a $20,000 program. What did I just do here? And I literally was kicking myself. So then I think at the 2000, I was like, anybody that bought it at 2000, they got to keep it. And then I think I decided to go up to like 3,400 or something like that. And then we started doing it and it was still like, no, literally this is way too cheap. So but I sold it at 34. Right. And then I was like, guys, I want to double the length. I don't want it to be 90 days. I want it to be 6 months. And I want you to go to 6,800. And then we did sell it. So like just having somebody buy it made me go, I'm worth it. They're saying it's right. And then this is how I really knew we had to raise our price. We would sell it and somebody would say, I can't believe this is what is in this program for this price point. And we heard that way too many times. We were like, oh my goodness. So we ended up, this $2,000 price point ended up being 9,800.
Wow.
At the end of it. And we really have now kept it at 9,800. And I still beve it's a $20,000 program for only 9,800. And I think my level of confidence in the product, I can sell it so easily. Because if I wasn't sure what it was worth, it would be hard for me to sell you on it.
Yeah.
But when I'm like, holy cow, this is better than my college, like my bachelor's in business, and I packaged it up into this program. When I can say that and I believe it, I can sell it. Right. So I think that's big, is like, what is your belief in the product? What is your belief in the person? So I sometimes feel like I'm a big believer in like, if I can do it, you can do it. If you can do it, I can do it. Right.
Right.
So if I have this product and I go to sell it and I believe that anybody can do it and get results, I show up differently and I sell it differently.
Yeah.
If you believe you're a shiny unicorn, this is actually very difficult and no one's going to be able to do it, you won't be able to sell it as well. Right. So I think it's, and why do such a disservice to think they couldn't get the result I got?
Right.
Why would you be the shiny unicorn? Like, why not? Right.
Right. Yeah.
So I think that's huge in like really upping your confidence and your conviction in what it is, more so than like, because if you really think, I don't know if I can sell it for this much, okay, then make it better. Keep the $3,000 price tag, but make it be a $10,000 program where you feel like this is a no-brainer, people. You better get it before the price goes up.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's really good. And just starting. You just have to start somewhere, and just like you said, kind of see what works. If, people start buying it and numbers, like you said, then, you probably could raise your price the next time. So I think you just have to get started on something.
And when you start to get feedback, right? Results. So we literally had somebody who bought the program at one of those earlier numbers and she made $200,000 in 90 days. And I was like, okay, we are not selling this for $3,400. Nope. Like, now we look stupid. Okay. Like, this is not good. So, but I think I had to start it to see and to watch them and go, this is valuable. Let's increase it. So I don't think it's like 0 to 100. Right. It's like first draft, do what you need to do to build your confidence, raise it.
Yeah.
And it's a whole lot easier to raise your price than it is to slash it. Like if somebody bought it for 10,000 and then it ended up being 2,000 6 months later, oh, I will hear about it. Right. Yeah, for sure. The other way around, no one's complaining. They're excited they bought it 6 months ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Real good. I love that. So what's your favorite resource right now for your business? Like, do you have a favorite CRM or an app or, just what's something that you really love? Like you could not do your business without?
Yeah. I'm going to say our project management software. And I like it, but I do think just in general, a project management software, I don't think like mine is so much better than yours. I really think having a place where you can stay organized, prioritize, be able to say like high, medium, low, what's important, what's not, like what are we doing and in what order? I'm in it all day long. Like I can't, that's where I was doing the quarterly and the annual planning right in the project management software. Right. So I think to me, that is just a huge part of our business.
Yeah. I don't think I asked you this already, but I wanted to ask you this about like your first hire, someone who's going into the new year and they're thinking, okay, I know probably just like investing into a coach, I probably can't afford to hire someone right now, but I also know to get to the next level, I need some help. What would you say to someone who's kind of feeling that way?
Yeah, this is like my biggest objection I get of like, but I can't afford it, Stacy. Like, I don't get it. Okay. So I actually just did a framework specifically for the person who wants to hire but can't afford it. And step 1 is making the math work. And it's all about figuring out the most profitable positions you could hire so they don't cost you anything long-term. It's just that temporary onboarding, right?
Right. Yeah.
So like our goal is like, if I looked at your business and it was just you and you were a solopreneur, which by the way, out of 33 million small business owners in the US, 27 something million are solopreneurs.
Wow.
So most businesses are by themselves. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. Which massively caps how much you can make. Yeah. Just so everybody is clear. This is not exciting. This is like, they make less than most of us that have a team. Right.
Right.
So making the math work is all about there's hires that will just cost you money and they'll help you, but you're not going to like feel it in your bank account. And there's some people that will make you money. And we need to figure out where the biggest opportunity for money making positions are. Yeah. And then figuring out like, what would they have to do to make it? what would winning look like in the first 30 days or the first 90 days? So instead of you thinking, oh my goodness, I'm gonna have to spend $1,000 a month and that's 12,000 a year. No. You might think it's going to cost me about $1,000 a month for the first month, but month 2, she should be able to make that money back. So it's only $1,000 investment, not a $12,000 investment.
Right.
So I think that's the biggest thing is like, it is a strategy. Like I only look at who can I hire and how are they going to bring me a return versus like some people hire, a social media agency and they'll spend $1,000 a month for like 30 pretty posts and they make no money from them.
Right.
They're paying $1,000 a month every single month. And I'm like, this is not working. You're losing money. It's not making you money. And I still do it because I'm testing, right? I just had to tell our YouTube guy, scrap the ads.
Right.
I'm paying you. I'm paying them. I'm not getting $1. Like this, I know it works. It's just not working for me right this second. And I don't want to bleed money. Right.
Right. Yeah.
So being good at like assessing and then deciding yes or no to cut it off. So to me, if I've only got to find $1,000 for 30 days, again, go back to your bank account, go to your credit card. You're wasting money. Let's find the $1,000 that you are pouring into so that we can pour into somebody else because, oh man, as soon as you get them up and running and they can make the business money, you get time back. We multiply your time. Yeah. Yeah.
It's amazing. I remember one of my coaches said to me, if more money doesn't give you more time, you don't need more money. And I always, and so when you hire out, they are going to help you to make more income, but they're also going to give you, like you said, kind of give you back that time for you to do what you want. Either it's the only things that you can do. There's things in your business that only Stacy can do. And there's other things that you can delegate out. Or maybe it's you want to go hang out with your kids or you want to go read a book or whatever. So,
and I want to make money when I'm on vacation.
Right.
Like I heard this girl who teaches Etsy and she said, good news, you can pause your Etsy shop while you're on vacation and turn it off so nobody can buy. And then you don't have to worry about fulfilling. And I was like, so we're not making money that whole week? That sounds very scary. Like I was like, you're promoting this like it's a good thing? Like we're just stopping making money next week.
Right.
I'm going to be on vacation next week. And I expect that my team is going to generate revenue while I'm gone.
Right. Yeah.
It won't even look like I'm gone next week. We should generate as much revenue as we did this week while I was here.
Right. Yeah. That's a well-oiled operation.
Oh man.
It's a well-oiled operation. So that's awesome. Well, this was a really fun week. I seriously could ask you a bazillion questions. I just love talking with you and you have so much knowledge and wisdom and you're just very transparent and very willing to share. And I've always appreciated that about you from the very first time I saw you on a Facebook Live. Actually, it was a Facebook Live a long time ago. But if you had the opportunity to talk to all the mompreneurs just for a few minutes, what's something you would want to make sure they understood about this journey?
Yeah, I think just almost going deeper on what we just talked about, like the solopreneur should not be like the end goal. Like I really believe even if it's just you and an assistant, that's all you need, right? Like even just one person that can run it while you're gone, you can take a break. If something were to happen to you or your family and you have to step away, they can still, help customers and like be there and be present. I really think the way that you get to build probably the vision of what you imagined in the beginning of this amazing business, right? Mm-hmm. It's not going to happen without expanding and getting help. And it doesn't have to be scary. It could be finding, a part-time person on Fiverr. It could be Upwork, like nothing crazy. You might find somebody for $500 a month just to lighten your load a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. So I do think like really understanding what it can look like. When I say team, it could be a team of you and one other person, but it'll feel a whole lot better than you carrying the weight of the world and never getting to take off because somebody needs you at any moment.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so good. So good. Well, this was awesome. We will include links to Stacy's website and anything special you want to just share that you're offering right now.
Yeah. So, I think this will make sense with the time it airs. We're calling it a profit sprint. And it's really just about, I'll kind of go over profitable outsourcing a little bit. So if that got you excited, this could be good. It's $27. It's 3 days. Like it's a short, sweet. And the reason I do a paid challenge is because when you pay attention, you actually show up, you get results versus another freebie. You can go to profitsprint.co. nonprofitsprint.co. All the details are there, and it's a live sprint that we're doing together for 3 days.
That sounds fun.
Yeah. I'm really excited for it. I love the live. I like really talking to real people. I like engaging. I like hearing real questions, because there could be somebody who's like, I just don't get it. I just don't think I can afford it. And I want to be there to kind of bust that objection and really understand, like, where is this coming from?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's awesome. We'll include all the links to how you can connect with Stacy, and anything that she's offering will be in the show notes for y'all to check that out. But thank you so much for your time today. This was awesome.
I'm so excited. Thanks for having me, Martine.
You're welcome. All right, friends, we'll catch you on the next episode. Well, that's a wrap, friends, for this week's episode of the Mompreneur Life Remixed podcast. Thank you so much for listening and for following the show. It means so much to me. And listen, friend, sharing is caring. So if you loved this episode and thought of some fellow mompreneurs who could benefit, send them the link. Share this episode or take a screenshot and head on over to Instagram and share and tag me at Martine31Williams. We are connected on Instagram, right? It's where you will get all the fun behind the scenes of my life and business as a mompreneur. Until next time, know that I am believing in you always.